First thing first, Joacim, how are you?
I'm doing very good, thank you. I just had my late lunch and I need a little sleep after that. But it's not too bad. I'm really psyched to be out on a promo tour now and talk about the new album.
Okay, that's good. Before we go into the album, I'd like to go to the beginning because I saw you were DJing at an 80s rock thing as well. And you were born in 1971?
1970.
1970?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm older than I look.
But so you were very young in the 80s. When did you discover rock music?
Well, when it comes to heavy metal music, that was back in 1981.
Okay.
I was at my neighbor's and he showed me an album by a German band called Accept.
Okay.
And that was the Breaker album. That was the first I heard and I was totally blown away. The next week I went to the record store, the local record store, to buy the album, but they didn't have it.
Right.
But then I knew, I was checking some things out and I saw this other band called Saxon. So that was the first album I ever bought, Saxon's Strong Arm of the Law.
And now, some years on, what do you think of Saxon now?
That is one of the bands that are getting more or less getting better by the year. Okay. They're like a good wine, you know. Yeah, they mature. The longer they mature, the better they get.
What made them so good?
Back in the days or nowadays? I don't know. I think they're. I don't know. It was a brand new style. I never heard metal before, and Saxon became one of my favorite because they had really good, catchy songs. Mm-hmm. And then they, when I heard Prince of the Night the first time, I was like, wow, that was the coolest guitar riff I ever heard. So a good combo of great guitar work and good songs.
And you were 11 then by this time. Were you playing music at that age?
I started to play music very late.
Okay.
I bought my first guitar when I was 14 years old, and I was sitting at home playing with a coin, and I was just killing the strings.
Okay.
And no, I was more into sports when I grew up. I used to swim for 8 years. I was in the junior national team of Sweden for 2 years, and then I started to sing a little bit just on the side. But I think I was like 21 when I decided to give it a try a little more.
Was that a difficult decision to leave the sport behind and go into music?
Not really, because the music took more of my attention, and because I really wanted to play in a band, but my skills as a guitar player was so limited, so it didn't really work. So I had to sing instead, to stay in the bands, and I felt I was done with sports and I had to pursue something else.
But so your goal was to become a guitarist?
Oh yeah. I didn't want to sing. Okay. I wanted to be the new Yngwie Malmsteen.
Okay. So now, what was that first show or that initial bit of singing like for you? Did you enjoy the singing?
No, it sounded horrible.
Okay.
I mean, I had a vision. I wanted to sound like a certain type of. Sorry. I wanted to sound like a certain type of singers, like Jeff Tate of Queensryche. I really admired Rob Halford, Dee Snider, but they were all high-pitched, and I was not really there. So it took me quite some time to get to know my voice.
How long? When was there maybe a moment or a song even where you thought, okay, now I have the ability to do what I have in my mind?
Well, it was actually when a guitar player contacted me. He heard my singing and he really liked it, and he wanted me to be the singer of his band. And then I realized I must have something that is unique, with my voice, and something that is very appealing, at least for him. So at that time, then I quit smoking, and I went to music school after that just to see how good of a singer I could be. So after then, a lot of bits and pieces kind of fell into place, and shortly after we recorded "Glory to the Brave."
Okay. And well, I believe you do lectures as well, music school. So was it, looking back, was it important to have that kind of theoretical background to know what your voice is doing?
It actually helped me a lot throughout the years, kind of knowing the limits of my voice, and also getting the tools how to warm up, to be ready to sing when it's time for it. Because most people, they're just they drink a beer, go up on stage and start, and eventually you're going to run into problems.
How important is it for you to keep your voice as good as possible? Do you have to make a lot of concessions on the road and that?
I need to. I can't really close every party. I need to be. I need to get my sleep, once in a while, and the voice is the most important thing I have.
Okay.
If I abuse it too much, I can't really continue this. So I need to be careful. I mean, as a guitar player, you can purchase new strings, get a new guitar, but I have one set of vocal cords. That's it.
Sure. And well, you mentioned Glory of the Brave. When did you start writing music? Was it around this time, or was it well before?
I didn't really write anything before Glory to the Brave. Okay. Then I was more asked to be part of the songwriting process, and I didn't really know my capability of writing music, because I was told from people I was working with that I couldn't write. So then I thought, I can't write. I suck at writing music. But when we started to put the first album together, it was me, Oscar, and Jesper Strömblad who co-wrote all the songs. I kind of realized that I can write songs. And before then, I also wrote with a friend just for fun. I wrote some like Swedish singer-songwriter stuff. Then I started to realize, I can actually write. This was before Hammerfall, just before Hammerfall. And we also, for the fun of it, every third weekend we went to his place and did some computer programmings. That was when computers were slow.
Right.
And we did like up-tempo, Euro disco type of arrangements, but with kind of metal melodies to it, just for fun. And I learned a lot there.
Can you give me one example of what you took away from doing that?
So what took away?
What you took away, what you learned, the one thing that you still use now.
I mean, I would say my sense of melodies. That I knew my strength in writing. It's not, composing a guitar riff, because I can't do that. That is Oscar's thing, and he's very good at that. For me, it's adding very well thought out melodies. The people that are kind of catchy, emotional, and kind of punchy at the same time.
And where does this is going to be a difficult question, but where does your inspiration come from in terms of these melodies? Do you listen to a lot of different types of music?
Yes,
as well?
I listen to. I always say a good song is a good song. A good performance is a good performance. In order to find new music, I went back in history, so to speak. This was a couple of years ago when I discovered Van Morrison, Neil Young, and found some really good stuff there. And most of these older like albums from the 50s, 60s, early 70s are one-take albums. They don't sit there and they redo things and they're cutting, because there were no cutting. I mean, you had like session musicians coming in there and they played the song and recorded at the same time. That's it, thank you, bye. And what they did there was kind of a unique thing that ended up on the album. So no, I'm actually listening to a lot of music to try and find inspiration, hear good melodies, and see where I can take my own music.
And around what period was this? Do you remember what year it was?
When I went back, backtracking, this was in 2013.
Okay, so very recent. So do you notice on Revolution then, do you notice a difference in the way you use melody in your voice?
Not really. I think it's. I went up a little bit higher. I think I, at that point, started to be more secure about my voice and also my capabilities. that I didn't. Sometimes I was hesitating, like, no, it's too high. Let's work around that note with a different type of melody. For Revolution, and especially now for Built to Last, I didn't hesitate. I just, if there's a very high note coming, let's do it.
And this confidence, where did it come from? Was it going through all these one-take, backtracking through these artists and one-take records? And
I think just knowing yourself, knowing your limits, and actually believing in yourself. Back when we did Glory to the Brave and Legacy of a King, I didn't know shit about anything.
Sure.
I didn't know shit about my own voice. I was just, okay, how do we do this? I'm singing to that microphone, okay. And now I'm more relaxed, more confident. I know how it works. I would say that in order to just to backtrack, to find, go back in music history, it just gives me a lot of inspirations to pursue my career as a vocalist and also as part of the songwriting team.
And well, what you say is interesting because, well, like say you're confident on the previous record, and then so was Built to Last. Was that an easier record to make because you had that confidence and you had kind of because you took a break and then you made an album, so you were more in the flow?
I would say it's probably one of the hardest albums we ever wrote, because now we're sitting with, before we started to write this album, with 9 studio albums, meaning we already wrote like over 100 songs.
Sure.
And now you need to come up with something new. You're sitting there with a blank piece of paper and a pen, and you have no idea where to start. So that's, I often get the question if, well, did you feel a lot of pressure from people? Like, you know what? I'm so damn good at putting pressure on myself.
Okay.
Sitting there like, hell, I need to come up with something. And you start, writing a melody, and you're not satisfied. You're kind of on an emotional basis killing yourself every day in the studio when you write. So this was a tricky album to write. Same with Oscar, working with the with the guitar parts and stuff. It took some time for him to get in the right mode.
And you mentioned that this is number 10, so did that have an effect? Was that a little bit more important, so to say?
Every album is equally important. I remember when we did the second album. Now it's the important second album.
Sure.
Okay. Now it's the crucial third album. If you release a bad album, that's going to affect your career. Sure. That's the way it is. So every album is, as important. But I think one of the most important albums that we did release, that was Revolution. Because coming from a short break, we needed kind of to prove to ourselves that we still had the joy, and were capable of producing high quality metal.